Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My Family of Four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate out from there. Please grab a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the American West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. Tara of Tara's Tiny's Trailer is an old-school Washingtonian who was born and raised in this state. She's a weekend nomad who is hard to keep up with as she's always gone. Just check out her Instagram at Tara's Tiny Trailers and you'll see for yourself. She's an avid adventurer who spends as much time in the woods hiking or running an occasional 50K as possible. Her kinetic energy propels her to always be in motion moving forward. She joins us today from her base camp in central Washington. Tell me a little bit about kind of how you got into the tiny trailer.
Yeah, so and it's just funny with different stages in your career and how much it ties up your life, and everyone has different paths and ideas on how they want to run their life. But you get into a career path, and my main focus was I went to Europe all the time. I mean, I went to Ireland all the time, in England, and I'd go to London, and I'd go for long weekends, and my whole focus was outbound. And I think with COVID, it kind of helped me reshape my priorities a little bit. I mean, I think not only by force, but just like, hey, I should be giving my kids the same type of memories I had when I was a kid, which is, exploring your backyard, getting outside. So I wanted to come back to my roots a little bit. I wanted to have those places where you go year after year and you're excited to go back, and that's where we go for 4th of July, or kind of those memories. And yeah, to what you said, I grew up in motorhomes, looking for the KOA sign and Bryce Canyon and this place and all over we went on a couple of pretty significant trips when I was a kid, but we also had our places that we would go time after time. I wanted to give that to the kids. And then I did start tent camping, and that was really fun. And that was our first introduction, or my first introduction to the kids, to kind of pull them into that lifestyle. And it was funny. I thought it would be easier for them to get into it, but they were a little nervous in the tent at night, so we had to kind of tell stories and leave the little lantern on all night. So I've been wanting to get back into it for years, and I've been just, eyeing different trailers and campers. And I was like, just kind of in the back of my head thinking at some point I want to jump on this. And I think the evolution of that is, what can I handle by myself? What can I really deal with all this stuff? And what vehicle am I going to pull it with? And at the time I had a Subaru Outback. So I was going, oh my gosh, I'd have to buy a different vehicle. And so I tossed around all these ideas. I thought about having a van built, and I researched some van building companies, and I was like, I'm going to do this. But the problem with sleeping configurations in a van
Are very challenging. They're not, yeah.
You have 2 kids and you want to give them each their own little space, and you have yourself, and you're just trying to make it fun for everybody and comfortable for everybody. Yeah, you could all 3 sleep in a van bed, but it's not going to be the best situation. So, and then I really like to hike. So I go to trailheads every time, and I usually choose my campgrounds based on kind of what day trips I can do and what trails we can go out on. So I wanted to make sure that once I set up camp, because I love setting up camp and putting lights up and making it
homie
have a great vibe.
Yeah.
Anyone in my Instagram account knows that I have a little issue with that. So that's why I said, no, I'm not going to do the van. I want a trailer. And then from there, it was, how can I get a small enough trailer I can deal with myself and still have the sleeping configuration that I want? And that really narrowed it down really quickly. I mean, it was only a couple of different companies that offered something that was lightweight, that had a bunk bed option. And then I'm in sales. I really respect companies that not only build a quality product, but I need somebody to get back to me and communicate with me and show me that the buying process is going to be successful. And that's why I kind of went the direction I did, is because we started to communicate and I started to learn more about it.
That's
and,
awesome.
I mean, that's really the evolution, was just size, usability. Can I back it up? I didn't want to deal with gray water, the black, whatever you call it, the poop,
Yeah.
the tanks,
The slinkies.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I just was like, I can't deal with this. So, I kind of narrowed it down to what I was willing to deal with and what I thought I could do by myself, really. And I tell people that all the time. I mean, I have women reaching out to me, not even men too, but a lot of times it's just people that are new to it and they want to jump in and they want to know, can I really learn to back up a camper? Can I really go and do this? And so it's been really fun to have those conversations with people.
Yep. My tip for you, by the way, for upping your campground good vibes,
Yeah,
especially out there on the eastern side of the mountains in the summer, misters, Home
Yeah.
Depot misters.
I'm telling you,
I've gone nuts on misters.
When I see that, I am completely jealous. And I mean, you know how the best thing about camping is, or the best thing about being in a campground when you're in campgrounds, is to do the walks. And of course, check out.
Yeah, everybody's sites.
Oh, you got to check out what kind of gear they have, what they're doing, what kind of camp setup, what kind of chairs. I mean, I feel like everybody at night's out kind of cruising and asking other people questions and trying to figure out, like, what do you do? And oh, that's cool. That's a good idea. And hey, what brand is that chair? That's awesome. You know, everybody, I love that the most. That might be one of my most favorite campgrounds, is everybody wants to kind of connect and they want to peek at your stuff. And
yeah, it's a great community for sure.
Yeah.
So about how many days a year are you out camping? You had mentioned, I mean, are you trying to be gone every weekend for the most part?
So this was my first, I think I got the camper in May. No, March. So, I mean, I really hit the ground running. This is my first season moving away from tent camping into the camper. And oh boy, I wish I should have looked at how many weekends I camped over the summer, but I was almost gone every weekend. After the delivery, I took off and I went to Soap Lake. And
Soap Lake is great, but the wind out there too gets wild.
And out here we just kind of live in wind. So I put up with it. I know, trust me, I know I've had to like maneuver my camper, park my Jeep, kind of try to create these little wind blocks in different camping areas. But we stayed and we had a campsite with a hot tub. I thought it would be fun for the kids as an intro. So it was super fun. We had a hot tub in our campsite. We did some exploring up there, but yeah, so I'm gone a lot. I wish I would have looked up how many, but yes, almost every weekend. And I this is kind of funny. I just watch campgrounds that I want to stay in, and I just kind of stalk the different websites, whether it's a private campground or a state campground, and I just wait for somebody to cancel, and
boom,
I jump on them oftentimes last minute. I try to plan ahead. I mean, right now, obviously, I've already been making some
for the summer
reservations, but it always seems like something changes, or
right,
can't go that far this weekend. We need somewhere closer. So I end up changing them all the time throughout the season.
Well, the hot spots make remote workers. I worked from my hammock in a campsite last summer.
Yeah.
We drove out and we did the whole like Glacier, Yellowstone, whatever. And I was working from the campsite, working from my hammock. And during COVID, we went camping, and I have pictures of my kids sitting at a picnic table on their Chromebooks, logged into class, doing schoolwork and on Zooms.
You have a really good hotspot that you like, that you use?
I bought the Verizon. So my cell service is with T-Mobile because I wanted redundancy. And so I bought the Verizon MiFi something. It was about $200. And
okay,
then
that project is trying to get some actual decent Wi-Fi.
And then what I did is I went postpaid. So I, will load it, right? Like old school days, like I'll call Verizon and say, I want to put data on my, instead of being in a monthly whatever, because I'm not using it, right? So I'm not going to pay for a monthly service to just have it sit in a closet. So while I pay more for the data when I do fire it up, at least, average out over the year, it's a wash. So, Let's talk novels. What is your favorite road novel? Like,
Oh my God.
I know.
I listen to the strangest things. I don't think people would think, but I mean, like, I like books on like audiobooks.
Yeah. So audiobook or a book you've read, whether you read it in your 20s or whatever, what is your favorite road novel that's inspired you?
So, and of course I go with ones where the author is reading, because I love when they're telling the story. And I love Michael Pollan.
Okay.
So every single book right now I'm listening to Your Mind on Plants, but I think the last one I read was called Cooked. And it's all about food. I mean, I'm plant-based.
I'm a big Michael Pollan fan.
Yeah, he's just fantastic, and he reads his own books, so I love those. And I absolutely love, there's two books, and of course I can't think of the name, but one's called Disappearing Spoon, and it's about all the elements and how the elements were discovered and came to be on the periodic table. And it's super interesting. So I always read nonfiction. I'm not a big
Yep.
It's always nonfiction.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm mostly nonfiction as well, so that I get it.
Yeah, I love exploring different, scientific topics, origins, any type of true history story. I love Nathaniel Philbrick. He writes about, the Mayflower and the creation of the Smithsonian and things like that. So,
cool. Well, on the same topic then, road trip music. Like, what's your go-to jams when you need to put the pedal to the metal and you got a stretch in front of you?
Okay, I'm
and no judgment. No,
I'm as eclectic with music as I am with books, and I have several mixes because I like some of the today's stuff, like all the little Instagram tunes, all the songs you're like, oh, that's where that came from. And there's some country songs I like. I love 80s music, all of it, all of the old school stuff. I like grunge music from the 90s. I mean, it's kind of my high school era.
Yep, mine too.
Soundgarden, Eddie Vedder, everybody. Back in the day, I loved everything, even like Nine Inch Nails. I mean, I have a huge. It just really depends on my mood, and so my mixes are really mixed.
Good.
Really mixed.
Well, that's good. That's great. Did you name your camper?
Oh my God, that is such a great question. So I'm really weird about naming things.
You got to personify it. Have you personified it? I mean, have you given it a name?
Well, I haven't. And I've thought about it, and everyone's like, people around me growing up and my friends have named their vehicles and their things. And it's always been kind of a funny thing for me. I have a really hard time because I feel like once you name something, it kind of takes on that persona, and it's weird. I have a hard. So my camper, in my opinion, has a very nautical feeling, and I grew up with boats, and it's fiberglass. And the first thing I did when I opened the door, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like getting a new boat. It's so, it had a similar like smell. And so I do call it my little submarine. Just that's something really funny, but I was like, oh, my little submarine, because you close the hatch and it has a round window and it looks like a submarine. And I've gone through all of this thinking of naming it, but
you have.
I mean, that's kind of how
it doesn't need to be named Nancy or anything. It's just, you've named it. It's your little submarine.
Not Fred, and it's definitely not a girl. Like my truck's not a girl. My camper's not a girl. If anything, it's a male. But
right, submarine. I like it. The little submarine. That's great.
Right, like a little submarine, because you feel like you close the hatch and you're in a little submarine.
That's
so
perfect.
you're the first one to know. Like you and your audience, you're the first ones to know. That's what I say.
Hey, that's great. That's great. Where are some places that you like to camp that you're willing to share those places that are your favorite places to camp in Washington State? And then I want you to name a place you haven't camped, but it's on your list. And that place doesn't necessarily need to be in the Pacific Northwest. It could be, but it doesn't have to be.
So this is such an easy question. And how do you even narrow it down? And I like places for two different reasons. One, just to give me access to cool things like Sequest. I mean, there's nothing really that drives me to that park, but I like being down there for access. As far as parks that I love, and I love state parks, I really do. I love state parks. Easy to book, and it's just a great mix of you're still in a campground, but you're not in a campground. You still feel
right, and they don't pack in like sardines like a lot of the private ones do.
exactly. And I would say like Orcas Island, Moran, and there's the
Mount
Upper Lake,
Constitution.
which are just insane. And yeah, the hiking, it's just insane. The hikes are incredible. The views are incredible. You can get lakefront sites. So I would say that's one of my top ones. I like Beacon Rock as well because it's tiny, and I like the hikes, and I love hiking Beacon Rock.
I'm not familiar. Where is that?
Yeah, so it's right on the Washington side of the Columbia River. It's a ways down, but Beacon Rock itself is an awesome short hike. It just incredible. It's creepy. I mean, look it up. If you look at how they structured this trail up this rock, it's unbelievable. And I finally was able to, they finally reopened it. And I immediately went down there as soon as I heard that they opened up the trail, took the kids up there. And it's a big adventure for kids because heights, it definitely gets you. But there's also a trail system that goes up behind the campground, which is really cool. And it's a small campground. So it's really, and they don't have very many RV sites. So it's kind of a tough one to get into. I really liked Ike Kinswaw State Park as well, just because all of the campsites have little trails that go to the lake. So you almost have like a private little lake access. I mean, I think it's one of those hidden ones that no one talks about. And it was referred to me from a Washington State Parks employee.
Cool.
They're like, you know what's good? And I'd never heard of it. And they were like, yeah, this is my favorite. And no one ever talks about it. And I went, and the kids spent the entire weekend in the lake. It's one of those places where you feel like you can just hang out at your campsite and you can just walk back and forth from the lake, and you don't really feel like
you need
leaving.
to go do something. Yeah.
We always bring scooters with us. And so there's several loops in the campground, so we can scoot, and there's a really cool lakefront trail. So there's just enough stuff that if you want to just go and be at a campground, that one's fun. I liked Toronto too. That's another weird little one that I just randomly tried, and it's on the Hood Canal, but it has old growth trees in the park. So there's some campsites up in the back. And if you're a tent camper, there's some stunning tent sites, but then right before that, there's some RV sites with massive old growth trees right in your campsite.
That's
and
fun.
Then swimming access to the Hood Canal right there. And you can rent kayaks. I mean, we rented kayaks, we hung out. It was surprisingly good for a little tiny state park that I had never heard of. So luckily with just kind of riding cancellations during the week, it kind of pushed me to some of the more off the beaten path.
Cool.
Ones, yeah. And so as far as ones I want to go to, I really want to go to Cape Disappointment and Palouse Falls. I want to get back up to the rainforest. It's been years. So I want to go up to the whole rainforest.
Yeah. Let's do the Solduck Hot Springs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I haven't been since college.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it's so funny. It's right there, but I haven't been in years. So I can't wait to go back.
Do you have a favorite national park? And if so, what and why?
Oh gosh, that's such a good one. And I'm actually heading down to New Mexico this weekend, and I absolutely love Tent Rocks National Monument.
Okay.
I love that one. And I've been to, Bryce Canyon and Arches and, some of those over the years. And it's been a long time. It's been a long time. So it'd be hard to say favorite. And I'm looking forward to kind of revisiting some of them. Sequoia. I mean,
right.
There's just some amazing, and I have a list. I have a list of ones that I want to either return to or take the kids to. So
yeah, that's wonderful.
I want to go to White Sands in New Mexico. I won't do that this weekend, but I definitely want to go out to White Sands. And I absolutely love New Mexico. I think it's one of those underrated little escapes.
Yep. Their food is incredible. Their food is incredible.
And going to Bandelier National Monument and seeing the cave dwellings, and it's just one of my favorite spots.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You're gonna have a great time. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh man, I have a thing about like people saying, "Oh, that's on my bucket list," and my advice would be to just interact with that bucket list and just go right now and start start living right now and not, putting stuff on lists and doing things later. And I mean, I tell my mom this, I tell everybody this. It's just like, we have what we have now. We don't know what's going to change with our health or our family, or, just like get out there right now and start doing all the things you want to do. And because your kids grow up and everything changes and their priorities change and they want to spend less time with you. So yeah, I just say, start living right now.
That's actually a really solid piece of advice.
Thank you.
Oh, it is.
Take the bucket list and
get it going.
Part of your life and start right now and start living and going on adventures. And what I value is when most people are sitting on the couch in their living room and I'm up on a trail, and I'm just like, as much as I can experience the world around me and get out and make memories with my kids and memories for myself, then I'm happy.
I always close the podcast with get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon. That's like my closing line. So
love it. Yeah. I agree.
Yep. Yeah, just go.
I will do that. I promise.
Yeah, good. I actually believe you absolutely will.
Yeah, I will.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me. I really appreciate it. I love following your adventures and watching your reels. They're very inspiring and fun. So
thank you. I try to be helpful and entertaining if I can sometimes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
For having me. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun.
I appreciate it too. It's time for our pit stop. And today we are going to be chatting about apps to help make the RV experience a little easier and a little bit more enjoyable. As they say, whoever they are, proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Some of the apps that I'll be discussing today are apps that I use a lot in my everyday non-RVing life, but they're important to my RVing life too. So without further ado, let's dig in. Trip planning. When I start researching for a trip, whether it's local, more regional, or even a much larger trip, I start all the same. And before I dig into where I want to camp, I've got all these browser tabs open and I find myself toggling between tabs to gather all sorts of bits and pieces of information. I use Google Maps primarily for my general route planning, gauging distances between stops, figuring out kind of what are those destinations that we know for sure we want to do, and then kind of going destination to destination, looking at a route, and then kind of doing a little bit deeper dive into distances and times, and then where can I camp or find a spot to spend the night. Onyx Maps is a paid subscription, and I use it very similar to what Google Earth would do. But what I like about Onyx Maps is it has more details and map overlays. It will show you forest land, BLM land, privately owned land, and it's great for locating boondocking locations. But I also will use Onyx if I know, say, I'm staying at a state park or even at a private park. I will use Onyx to zoom in and then kind of look at the satellite imageries to use to pick my exact spot that I want to stay at within that park. Compendium is a great resource for finding between free, private, state, all sorts of campgrounds, but then you have a lot of user-fed data where you're going to get active reviews that are current saying, hey, I was just there this last weekend and, it was great, it wasn't great, here's photos, etc. So it's a lot of that user-fed content that's great to help you make decisions on where you might want to spend the night. Roadside America has been around for a long time. I've been using it for a very long time to find all of those wacky roadside attractions. And I kind of use Roadside America to break up travel days, whether it's a stop, let's stretch our legs and go look at that world's largest ball of string or whatever it might be. I like to use Roadside America to kind of find those things to see along whatever route we might be doing. Road Trippers is another great one that's similar to a little bit similar to Roadside America as far as helping you find those kind of wacky roadside attractions, but they also have other attractions that are not wacky, that are great for, places you might want to stop to stretch your legs and do those things as well. On our moving days, for traffic, I have up to this point primarily used Google Maps for traffic. I have been lucky enough to not get stuck on any of the crazy roads or get to a bridge that I can't get under, where I've read some of those horror stories, if you will, online about how Google Maps has maybe led some people astray. So this summer, this summer, we are going to be driving here from Washington State out to Chincoteague, Virginia, and Philadelphia, and circling around back. So I will be subscribing to RV Life. I think that's the one that I've been reading about the most. So that way I can plug in our travel trailer and my total length and height and all of that stuff to make sure that I don't have to be concerned about getting routed to a situation and getting in a sticky situation. The other big one I like to use is called Gas Buddy. I use Gas Buddy to find fuel wherever I am on the road. It's a great little resource that helps you find affordable fuel and what fuel is close by you. And also it is kind of user-generated content, so the pricing is always in flux. So somebody can chime in and say, yep, I just bought gas and, my gas was X amount of dollars, per gallon or whatever it might be. So Gas Buddy is a great free app to use for finding fuel stops. I am a remote worker. I do not have an office to go to. It has no bearing. The pandemic has had no bearing on what work looks like for me. And so I do have some tech apps that I need to rely on when we are on the road, so I can take extended trips with my family. And I do a lot of remote work from our travel trailer. The first one that I use is called Coverage, and I purchased that from the App Store, but it is from the Mobile Internet Resource Center, which is a great group that does all sorts of mobile internet solutions for RVers. And so the great thing about this app is that you can overlay Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, and see kind of what the coverage is in areas that you're planning to be at. Is it 4G? Is it 5G? Is it 2 bars, 3 bars? So you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to be like before you get there and not have any surprises of not having cell phone coverage. I do pay and subscribe for a VPN. My VPN is Surfshark, and I use that so I can protect myself and my work when I am remote work, or if I need to pay our bills when I'm on the road and I can happen to come across a free Wi-Fi, or we pulled into a Starbucks or another place that might have Wi-Fi, I'll fire up Surfshark and use that to protect myself, and that's a great VPN. I have an other category, and one of the ones I like to use here is called Weigh My Truck, and it's for the Catskills. So all of the Catskills are located at truck stops, and so I have in the past gone in and rolled on and weighed my truck and trailer to really get a more accurate gross combined weight rating to know, how I loaded the truck. If I'll make sure I have a full tank of fuel. And then with my whole family sitting inside the truck, we'll roll onto the cat scale. The app already has my credit card on it, so I just roll in. It dings my card. It's $12, and it'll give me drive axle, steer axle, as well as the trailer axles, as well as the gross combined weight rating. So I can see how I'm doing as far as my total weight of my tow vehicle and of my trailer. Geocaching. Geocaching is a great Seattle-based company, and my family likes to do geocaching when we're on walks or hikes as a way to, one, kind of help keep the kids a little more motivated, as there's the idea of a little pirate treasure down the road. But looking for and finding things is a fun little activity that we like to do with geocaching. And so this app just kind of helps us see if there's any caches in the area and kind of put a little different spin on some of our walks or hikes. Skyview Light. This is a great little app that I like to use when we're around the campground in the evenings. The sun's already gone down. Maybe we're wrapping up s'mores and just kind of winding down before the kids start to go to bed. And so I'll pull out Skyview Light. And if you're into astronomy, stars, constellations, and locating planets, this is a great app that it kind of uses the camera on your phone, and it knows where you are on GPS. And so you can just kind of point your phone up to the sky, and it will help identify the constellations, planets that you can see in the night sky, as well as individual stars. So it's just kind of a fun little app to let the kids gaze up at the night sky and take in some astronomy. So for weather, I'm constantly checking on the weather. Living in the Pacific Northwest is kind of important. So I will use Weather Underground is probably my daily weather app that I use to check the weather. I will cross-reference that also against what's going on the NOAA website. And then the other one I've kind of started using is called Windy. And Windy is a great little app to kind of show you the direction of the wind, how quickly the wind is moving, how strong the wind is in the area. And so it just kind of is an overlay of a map, and it shows you the wind patterns in the area that you are in, or where you're going to be, or where you might be going. So it's just kind of a fun little one to look at that way too. The culmination of these apps have helped me over time build fun and robust trips. Hopefully I've shed some light into some apps that I have used to help you find maybe new apps to help you. But I also know that this is not a complete or comprehensive list. So I ask you, what apps do you use? Please tag me in a post or comment on this episode on Instagram and let me know what apps I'm missing out on. You can feel free to drop me an email at rv.out.west@gmail.com. Let me know, again, what apps you're using and that I should be using to make my RVing life a little bit easier. Thanks so much for listening. In our next episode in 2 weeks, it's our show's 1-year anniversary, and I will share my favorite KOA in Washington State and in Oregon. In the meantime, please be sure to share with your friends and family about this podcast, and head over to Apple Podcasts and leave this show a rating and a review. If you've not yet subscribed to the show, please do so. That way you'll never miss an episode. Please feel free to give me a follow, and let's interact on Instagram at RV_out_west. Now get out there and explore and go see what's beyond the horizon. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again in 2 weeks with our next episode. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And I sure would appreciate if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.